We're back with another episode
of Men Know Nothing.
I almost called it Subject to Teams there.
Men Know Nothing, episode 48.
Yes.
Excited.
As usual, thank you very much for all our regular listeners. Mm-hmm. And if you're new, welcome. Dan, you can say the slogan.
Welcome back to the podcast, giving you the Welcome back to the podcast, Welcome back to the podcast, giving you the unqualified advice. Welcome back.
Oh my God! What's going on?
Giving you the unqualified advice you never asked for on a
daily
regular
basis.
There we go.
You're gonna have.
It is a Tuesday, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you to fix that. Well, you probably just heard a little giggle from a woman's voice. Obviously, that's not Dan, myself, or Oakley.
It is not.
And we have the pleasure today of having Anita. I'm going to probably butcher your last name.
You will. Do it.
Tomecki.
That wasn't bad, actually.
Tomecki.
That's not bad. Tomecki.
Good job.
Tomecki.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And where's that from?
Poland,
okay. Polish.
London. It's from London.
It's from parts Ealing. It's a very Polish area.
Born and bred. And you are a human behavior expert and coach.
That's right.
Oh, watch this, Oakley. Sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about
what it is you do, how you got into it.
Oh, okay. So basically, it is a one-on-one coaching program that I do with people, and I do speaking events and run workshops, and it's mainly for people to help them to understand how they run their own mind. Mm-hmm. So then this kind of cuts into some of what we're going to be talking about today, right? So most of us will think that we're quite self-aware, but I can assure you, when you start delving into this stuff, I was shocked at how much unawareness I had of myself. So basically, this process is all around helping you to see exactly how you see reality. And it really shows us how we don't see reality as it is, as it plays out. We see reality as we're basically programmed through our childhood years. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing in this work is going through with people to help them to understand exactly how they've been programmed in the first 7 years. So it's about looking at...
Jesus. That's intense.
Yeah.
I got a bit anxious for a second. I'm like, oh my God.
Thank God we're asking you the questions today, because there could be a lot to...
Yeah. I mean, it really, for me, I had a therapist for 8 years before I even started studying human development.
Yeah.
And I thought I was so self-aware going into this course. And I literally sat there and I was like, I not know nothing, but there was so much that I didn't see about myself, so many blind spots. Fair. And we're talking things like just to put it in sort of simplistic terms, example, like, are you an optimist, are you a pessimist kind of thing? It's like, are you a people pleaser, are you a mismatcher? And there's 120 of those programs that make up our personality. But we preference around only 10 of those, and they run us. So whether someone's an optimist or they're a pessimist, whether they're a people pleaser or whatever. So what I do in that work is I help people to identify out of those 120 which key 10 programs are running them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the idea behind that we should have more running us or less, or is 10 the optimal?
So a whole human, perfectly formed, integrated human being is basically running all of them all the time in balance. And so what it's showing is that the 10 basically drive you, and there isn't flexibility. So if you are a pessimist, you don't have access to optimism, potentially. You are driven by worst case thinking. Same as someone who might be an optimist. They may not have access to worst case. And what this work's about, it's about bringing you into balance. Yeah. Because if we're only running optimism, it's likely to be a coping strategy that we've learned in childhood. We may have watched our mum be a worst case scenario thinker, and we went, that's not me. Yeah. I don't want that. Fuck that. That's unsafe. Yeah. I'm going to go best case.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So that's just like a really small example of this. And this is how it fits so well into dating, though, because pretty much every time we go on a date, we are going there and we are sitting there with our programs running, and we ain't seeing that person, and we're not talking to each other on a level of getting to know each other. And a lot of the time it's because we don't know ourselves. And so we go away and we judge and we have our opinions of them and all of the rest of it. We haven't actually got to know them. And then we go and we sit, I sit in cafes in Bondi, and I'm surrounded by the same conversations. The same, we don't even talk to them, we just go and talk to our friends about them. Oh, it must have been this because that happened to me, and it's like, it's just like
when you're
painful.
saying, when you're saying like a first date, we don't really know the person we're sitting with. Do you think that's because on a first date, people are so consumed with how they're being perceived that they haven't got the space to actually like absorb what that other person is saying?
Yeah.
For some people, yes, and that's called an external reference program. On the other end of that, you'll get someone who doesn't give a fuck about what they're thinking about them, and they're just talking. They've got no self-awareness. They might talk for the whole time. So it depends on the program, but it's not even first dates. It's our whole life. It's our family relationships. It's our friendships. It's everywhere. Until we can really get to know ourselves, we're not really ever going to have really,
such a long
great
process, though.
Yeah, fair.
It's it's the cliche saying ignorance is bliss. It's like the happiest people are always so ignorant because they haven't got to the point where they become self-aware to actually figure out what the fuck is wrong with them. How are they navigating the world, and how are their decisions actually affecting people. Those ones are just bliss. Like, oh, my last 3 relationships ended and because of this. I'm like, bro, you're the common denominator here. You might think that there's something you might need to work on, but again, whenever you're completely ignorant to that, then you can just live life carefree, which is obviously not ideal.
It's seemingly carefree, but I can guarantee you there's not one person that I've not drilled into that hasn't got shit running, however good they look on the outside. It just doesn't exist. I remember I got to a point in my life around 20, I think this was, I used to quiz people all my life, and I had that realization because every time I sat with someone, I'd just grill them.
Like an interview?
Yeah.
Like even when
dates? I was like this.
Oh, okay.
No, this is like just my not on, no one,
Okay.
I mean, when I was a kid, people used to go, oh, you're going to be a detective because you're really nosy. And my ex always used to say to me, stop fucking asking me questions. But, he loved
God
it
forbid
really.
I want to talk to you, babe. Like, Jesus Christ, I'll just sit here in the corner and cry to myself. Oh my God.
But it's
that's great. Okay, that is a great start to this episode.
Cool.
It's that your expertise and what you've just kind of mentioned will definitely fall into the kind of stuff you want to talk about.
I'm definitely a little bit nervous that you're going to see something.
You're on the couch, mate. You're lying in the right place.
You're going to see something in us and go, have you thought about that before? And I go, no, never. Wow, I'm in shambles.
I've already personality typed you.
Oh
God, I've been watching
she's already psychoanalyzed. She knows.
I'm on it.
At the start of every episode, we've started to get, I guess, stories in from listeners about scenarios and situations that they've been in, and the premise of it is to kind of figure out. We've kind of changed it, so it's not going to be what would you do in this situation. It used to be was it them or was it me? So now we're going to do what was it. Right, here we go. Listen up, I've got a story for you. So I met this dude on a dating app, and we've been hanging out for about 2.5 months now. We went on a bunch of dates before we finally decided to do the deed, because I'm the type of girl who likes to get to know a guy before jumping into bed. In brackets, not because I don't think I shouldn't have sex with him on the first date. I've listened to your podcast episode on this. But when we did hook up on the 4th date, it was fire. Fast forward to now, and we've been getting it on regularly, but here's the kicker. In all of this, the guy has never gone down on me, like ever. Meanwhile, I've been giving him oral pleasure every damn time. Now, I'm all for being chill in the bedroom and doing what feels good, but it's starting to feel a little one-sided. So I decided to ask him about it. I told him straight up that going down on me would make me come quicker and easier. And you know what he said? He doesn't go down on women. Never has, never will. His reasoning is just not his thing, and apparently he thinks it's weird because women bleed from there. What the fuck? I was shooketh. The fact that you shooketh. I was shooketh to say the least. This dude is 32 years old and he won't even try it. I asked him how he would feel if I never went down on him again, and he was like, hell no, I wouldn't date a girl who wouldn't do that. And I was like, well, I guess what? Same goes for me, so I ended things. What do you think? Was I wrong to break it off? How would you have handled this situation? In my head, I was like, was he Jamaican?
Brother, there are some cuisines that you are missing out on by not going there. Jesus.
I was like, where's he from? He's Nigerian, isn't he? What part of West Africa is he from?
Was it?
I don't know. I didn't ask, but that was my thought. Right. What do you think?
What do you think?
What would you do if that was you?
Okay, what I'm thinking first is maybe he had a really traumatic experience in childhood with blood. Like, seriously, like, we don't...
Dexter,
this is the thing.
like some Dexter shit. Whoa.
That's actually, that's fair.
But we just don't know. This is the thing. We can sit here and make stories up because that's what we do anyway, and we will do because it's fun. but who the fuck knows? Like, it's literally like,
A lot of times, people's reaction isn't really about you; it's about them. It's like stuff
Always.
that they're dealing with. I always think.
always, yeah.
I think the fact that she's gone, obviously asked him, and maybe he isn't aware of like what's happened that's making him think that. But then he's gone, nah, I wouldn't. But if you stop doing me, well then, nah, we're done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be, that would be
Whoa,
my issue.
that's now a bit.
Yeah.
That's unfair. That's a bit selfish. You know, you at least got to have like an even playing field.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. If he was here and I quizzed him, I'd get to the bottom of it, right? And there would probably be an answer where you kind of go, I actually get it now, and this is what happens everywhere in life, right?
fair.
So
I don't think I'd be with a girl who wouldn't go down on me.
you wouldn't.
No. Especially if I'm doing it, I'm like, nah.
I would find it really difficult. I also think there's like a level of intimacy that comes with it, and like I at points think that's the most intimate you can be with someone, because having I don't know, it's like you're having something in your mouth, like that is the like the closest bit to like your brain or whatever it is. Well, I'm trying to think, why is it like it's just in your fucking face?
It's just a very vulnerable position to be in.
It's an intimate place, and so I'm like, I would,
I've slept with girls. I've slept with girls on a number of occasions, and throughout maybe for a couple of months, they didn't let me go down on them.
I've had that before.
And they wouldn't let me, and they wouldn't go down. Actually, it was more so they wouldn't go down on me. And because they feel like that's the most intimate place and vulnerable place for them to be in, and they only do it with guys that they're really into, or reciprocates that kind of same feeling towards.
I get that. I do get that. I understand that.
Yes. You're gonna find it hard to pinpoint me on any answers here. Yeah.
What would you do though?
Yeah.
Oh, so if it was me,
minus the
I would
questioning.
I'd have a fucking question. I'd ask him, because there's got to be, for me, there's got to be more to it.
Yeah.
There's always more to it. Because I know there's more to it. So what if they then told you, whoever you're with, that the reason they wouldn't do it was because they had been
abused or something?
Yeah, something like that. And they didn't tell you that at first because they were really embarrassed and really ashamed. Would that change your mind?
I have a story.
It would make me more like understanding and empathetic, but then I'd also be like, cool, we need to get you to therapy. Like, we need to get the sort, because you know, like, mum has got some needs, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, like, you got to get him to therapy. And if he was like, no, I don't want to, then I'd be like, okay, now there's an issue.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, you don't want to work on any of these things. You just want them to exist. And I don't think I could be with someone who's just okay with like not trying to work on those things. So
yeah. Got it.
I've had a situation like this before where...
Is it you?
No, it is about me.
Oh, right, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I think you said it's about someone.
No, I've had a situation before where I was hanging out with this girl, and then we were sleeping with each other, and I was like, oh, Mom, if you're listening to this, just turn off. But anyway, I was about to go down, and she was like, oh, don't do that. I was like, don't do what? I was like, oh, don't go down. I was like, okay, sweet, fine, whatever. Then we just obviously did everything else, but that, and then once we were finished, I was like, oh, out of curiosity, I actually kind of put two and two together based on what we've spoken about previously, just about her life and what she's done in university and the kind of stuff that she used to do, because we're quite open while we were dating. And I put two and two together after she said, and I was like, out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, why do you not enjoy going down on guys, or not enjoy, but why you don't want to do it at this point? And she explained to me, I was like, you know what, that's totally fair, because I actually put two and two together, and I don't really want to say what it is, because if she listens, she'd know I'm talking about her. I put two and two together, and I was like, that makes so much sense. Having that experience when you're younger, doing this kind of stuff, obviously has put this weird kind of connotation with the whole oral sex thing, and it's obviously something you only want to do with someone who you're really into. And she's like, that is totally it. And she loved the fact that I understood, because she said she's been in situations where she's kind of explained that to men, and it hasn't been received very well. And literally 30 minutes later we started having sex again, and she was just keen to do it.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
within the same sitting.
Well, that just shows like it just took someone to be okay with the boundary,
Oh,
and then it's like, well, I can be
and to
comfortable.
feel safe.
And to
You
feel,
know,
I think it's a safe
trust.
thing, especially especially if you have people who have been in sexual situations where they've probably felt like used and exploited, and like you said, there's always a reason for people's reactions to certain things. So when it comes from that standpoint, I'm like, that is completely understandable that you'd feel that way. And then whenever she felt comfortable, she was like, I didn't even push it. I was just like, wait, what are you doing? I kind of like stop, and then she's like, no, I want to do it. I was like, Merry Christmas. I was like, keep on going. Keep on going.
I love a challenge.
Don't even tell me twice.
And that's just such a great example of when we do get to have those conversations and find out things can really change. And this is it. It's like, I always say, this is what I always, advise my clients is always assume that there's something wrong, even if they don't tell you. Like, if you're out on the street and someone pushes into you, or if someone bashes, if someone, is in traffic, they're cutting you up or whatever, instead of getting angry and all of that, just assume that they ain't happy and there's something going on in their life. Because what we do is it's all personal.
We were just talking about this, because we were just saying, because we were saying how the approach culture has, diminished or is going down a lot in terms of men going up and approaching women. And I was like, do you think it's because of the response they get? And sometimes it can be quite snappy responses. And, Dwayne was saying before, it's like it would be nice for them to be courteous and be like, hey, listen, I've got a mister, I'm not interested, have a nice day. But if someone is being rude, you have no idea what's happened in their day. And, a bit of perspective in terms of they could have, had an argument with their mister, 5 lads already come up to them, they've had a shit day at work, whatever it is. You'd like to think that people, for no reason, aren't arseholes. And it's because something has happened in their day to make them have that. So, it's also then for the lad to not be egotistical about it and be like, I'm going to take that as an attack on me instead of just understand that person has got some shit going on.
And I always say, especially if you've just approached a girl, she doesn't really owe you anything. And the reaction that you get is the reaction that you get. You chose to play the game of approaching and putting yourself in a vulnerable position to get a response that you're going to get. You could have gotten a great response and it's amazing. You're like, oh my God, I got a number. But on the flip side, you need to expect that there's a potential that you may get a shit response. Where the girl's like, can you just get the fuck away from me? Because maybe not explain to you, but in her head, it's like, I've already got 5 guys. I've got this issue in work. So you can't really expect a response. And if you get a bad one, you can't be stroppy about it. Just get on with it and move on.
It's kind of like everything in life. And this is if we could remove taking things personally from the world, we'd be living in peace. There'd be no world wars. So easy. There'd literally be, because everything comes down to our reactiveness is because we are taking it personally. And it's hitting our, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't belong, I don't feel safe. It's just hitting all of our core wounds and we got no clue. And we just think it's about this person that we've never met half the time because they've not responded to us on.
I guess, and it also comes down to you think they should act a certain way. So by putting that connotation on them, you're saying that you're laying that expectation that that's how they're meant to be. But if they should not act a certain way, it's just the way it is the way it is. And you just carry on with everything.
And you don't even know the person as well. So you don't even know how they react to certain things. So the reaction that you get is probably as real as they can give you in that moment. But you kind of just touched at the start about the things that you work on with your clients and stuff, and you obviously mentioned self-awareness. And one conversation I've been having with quite a few people is the difference between being self-aware and actually doing the self-development. Because I find what happens now with a lot of people, being self-aware is like this buzzword now. I'm so self-aware, I read all these books, I go to therapy, but yet they're people are still making those same mistakes. This was the conversation I was saying where it's all well and good being self-aware and knowing your traumas and knowing that because you got cheated on when you were 16 years old, this is why you can't trust men or this is why you can't trust women. But if people are aware of that and they still keep going into these relationships with this very, very bad, approach towards it and not doing the development to actually fix themselves, then what I'm saying, the self-awareness thing is almost in vain. It's pointless knowing 100%. What your issues are, but not actually developing and become a better person so that when you do go into these relationships, whether it's professional, friends, or romantic relationships, that you're the best version of yourselves. Do you find that whenever you're talking with your clients, there is a level of being self-aware, but then they don't feel the need to your relationship shit, have the conversation that's affecting your relationship so it can be better, but they just sit there.
So no, when I tell them to go and do their homework of going to talk to someone, they go and talk to them.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So this is the key thing with all of this. It's something you said earlier, is this is fucking hard work. It is and most of the time when we're repeating how self-aware we are, it's because we're actually trying to convince ourselves of that. It's kind of that fake it till you make it. This work is not easy. And I've been doing this on myself for so many years now, and I'm still not a perfect human being. So it's as I look out into the world, I have a lot of sadness and compassion for humanity because we're fucked. It's actually quite sad. And I think people are doing their best. And as they go into this self-development work, you know, you kind of go, oh, you're in it for a few months, but if you're really in it, you're in it for life.
Like, yeah, 100%.
Because it's like the thing that's brought you up until here and now, the way that we are, is years of repetitive practice of 30, however old you are, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, there's people in their 70s that haven't done any work. They're still playing out their childhood patterns of a 7-year-old. So as we're doing this work, we've got 30, 40, 50, however many years we've been, you know, since we've been children, since 7 years old, to fix. So it ain't an overnight thing. This is like literally seeing all of your shit and reprogram. It's like constant like work, self-talk, seeing shit, seeing yourself.
I was going to say, because I think that I feel like I've been trying to do that maybe more over like the last maybe 7 or 8 years, that it is like a daily thing, because I find myself doing things and I'll always stop and question why I made that decision I made, and is that like a vote towards the person that I'm trying to be, or is that a vote against it? Is that like along with what I'm trying to create, or is that against it? And sometimes like I find myself like just overthinking. I'm like, get into this pit of like, fuck, was that the right decision? Should I be doing that? Like, is this what I want to be doing? Yeah. And it is. It's a lot. Like, I feel like I feel like that is the development for me, is to just keep questioning my motive behind what I'm trying to achieve. But it's a daily thing. Like, it's all good being like, you know, I'm aware I'm a dick, but if you're not going to fucking do anything about it, do you know what I mean? It means fuck all. Like, it means nothing.
Well, this is a key line in coaching. It's like, every behavior has a positive intention. So even if it is being a dickhead, there is a positive behind that person holding on to it. So everything we do is for a reason that is serving us in that moment. If that's judging ourselves, if that's, you know, whatever shit we're doing, whether it's running anxiety, whether it's being depressed, you know, people come into coaching, they're like, how can that be positive? And it's like, it's not there for a positive outcome, but the intention of it is positive. So for some people, anxiety, it's like, well, it gets me up in the morning. This was me, right? It gets me up, it gets me going. Without anxiety, when that wasn't running, it was like, I feel a bit down, I feel a bit depressed, you know, and anxiety is not great. And so whenever I'm coaching anyone, they're going, I'm judging myself all day, I'm overthinking, I'm talking, it's like, well, what's the positive intention behind it? Well, there isn't one. Well, you wouldn't be doing it if there was. So we get to the kind of higher, you know, the highest value of it, which is like that much above the thing you want to be, but it's like, that's where you're at right now.
I guess I get that, because from the level where you say if someone is judging themselves, they're almost judging themselves because they kind of want to become better. It's like they keep questioning, I'm judging myself, oh my God, my body is shit. But it's like, it's a negative thought process, but the positive outcome is like, I want to be better.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a bad body, but it's how you then switch that, I guess, that train of thought into action, and then actually moving, again, when it comes to the development part of it. It's being aware that you have a shit body, but it's no good just sitting in the house and not eating better and going to the gym. So I guess that's where the negative thought kind of switches into positive.
I guess sometimes people need that as well. Like, sometimes people need, it's like what we spoke about the other day. It was called what was it called? The something, you heard it on the Chris William podcast. It's like sometimes things need to be really bad. What's it called? Region beta paradox. And it's like, so many people live in a state of comfort. Like, it's like, you know, my job is okay, my boss is, they're all right, they're paying me a decent salary. Because it's just good enough, you never make change. But for some people, when they get to that point where it is so shit, it's good they got to that point, because now it allows them to move forward and see what they actually want to go after.
And that's what I have so many clients that are in jobs that they say they don't want to be in, but the minute we're saying I don't want to be in it, but you're in it, you're resisting. This is a resistance you know, of your own reality, in the hope that it's going to give me a kick up the arse. And it's like, I was with a client today and she was kind of, you know, talking about work, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so you say you don't want to be there and you have to be there. So why do you have to be there? And it's like, they eventually get to the you know, the reasoning, you know, they're choosing to be there because they like the salary. They like the security of the job. So that is the positive intention. That's the highest thing that they're kind of missing, as they're resisting. And then again, it's like waiting, hoping that moment's going to come along. And it's like, well, and I know this is easier said than done, but the more you can just let it go and trust, there will be one of those moments where something happens where you will just know, I'm done now. And then you'll go, why the fuck did I waste 10 years hating my life?
I think it's almost like people like, I need to stay in a job, or I should stay in a job. It's all like the shoulds, needs, have tos. they get like a negative return on just having that belief system.
Yes,
where it's like just
absolutely.
believing that way they're not going to do something. So
Yeah.
like letting that go,
Yeah.
you realize that everything can be like malleable and everything can be changed.
Yeah,
And
it's all
at
choice.
the end of the day, like everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, and we
So-
are fine. That's what I
Yeah,
always say.
exactly.
Everything's gonna be. You are fine. You're alive. You're breathing. You're not
Yeah.
homeless. You're fine.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's coming back to, and this is the hard part again, but coming back to just here and now. You know, in this moment, right now, here, as we sit here, is the only moment that we have. All the rest of it, past, future, it's all bullshit. It's not real. That's gone. That's not here. That's all made up, the past. Because you're only taking snippets of it and you're filtering it and you're making up stories about it. And you're having the same situation, two
repetitive
of you.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same
over and over again.
thoughts. And we're just living in delusion land. You know, it's just, it's not real. And
I
it's,
always say to people when it comes to, I guess, going through those little turmoils in life, is that if you think about it in a positive light, as in every single hardship that you've gone through in your life, you've gotten through.
Yes.
Like you're here today.
Yeah.
Like when your heart was broken at 18 because your boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with you and you thought it was all going to fall apart. 10 years later, you're still here. So like this hardship now that you think is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, it's really not, because you thought that 10 years ago was the worst things happened to you. Again, it's perspective. And I always say this: worry about the things you can't control, and the things that you can't control, don't worry about them.
Yep.
Because if you believe in yourself that you have the capacity to overcome things, if you lose a job and you're like, shit, I don't have a job. Well, what's in your control? You don't have that job now. Don't worry about it. You're not going to get paid from that company anymore. Right, what can you control? Okay, do your CV, get on LinkedIn,
Yep.
get an Indeed, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do what's in your control, and then that's as good as you can do.
Yeah.
I think people also forget sometimes like that most people go through certain, hurdles in their life, but that is part of like how you get to who you are. Like if you wanted someone to be like a tough human being, to be like resilient, you wouldn't make their life really easy from the get-go. It's like if you wanted someone to understand patience, you maybe wouldn't give them everything like straight off the bat. Like all these different things like create the kind of personality traits that you want that person to have. And it's only with hindsight you can look back and it's like, well, without that, I wouldn't have the qualities I have today to look back at that.
Exactly, and that's it. It's huge. And this is the thing. It's like a lot of those experiences that we have later, that we're having now in life, it goes back to not just what happened to us at 16, but what actually happened to us earlier than that. And so, a really key part of the work that I do with people is each time you're going through something, whatever that is, it ain't about here and now. It ain't about the fact that that person you've never met hasn't texted you back. It literally, it's like that because we can get ourselves so worked up about that. And it's like looking at what's that hitting. And it's usually worthiness, it's usually not being lovable. And then it's going back to where did that start? And this is obviously quite deep work for people, but we literally go back there. And so, when you can really get that every time you're going through any experience in your life and it's triggering you in that moment, that's probably not a new feeling, a new sensation. That's always going to be familiar.
100%.
Yeah. And it's all the way back there, and it's kind of bringing yourself back to this is not about here and now, and it's got everything to do with what happened to me growing up. And that's like the conversation to have with yourself every day.
Well,
Honestly,
I was going to ask, like, what tips would you have to maybe help someone to A, maybe become more self-aware, or B, the self-development? And I think that itself is in a great point. When something happens, don't just think in the moment, like, where could this be coming from? But it does just take doing the work and sitting there and asking yourself.
I had that kind of experience because I started going to therapy maybe like over a year ago. And then maybe my fourth session, because after my first session, the therapist I went to was like, "Oh, I think you're fine. Like
you're there, like twitching.
Like, I'm not." Because obviously, when I would imagine a lot of the people that come to see her are completely unaware of why they're there. They probably got told to go.
Yeah.
And I went obviously willingly, and I'd already done some work and was beginning to
should have found a coach
on that journey. But I went in and had my first session. She was like, "Oh, okay, you seem pretty with it." And then after a few more sessions, I did some unpacking, and it went all the way back to my childhood, because I remember I was dating a girl. You probably know who I'm talking about. And something, I'm not mentioning what it was, because then if she ever listens, which she probably won't, but if she ever does,
She probably is.
yeah, because she does actually listen to it, or she used to.
She's lovely.
Hi.
Hey, but there was something about what she was doing that would trigger me so much. And you kept asking me, like, why won't you make your girlfriend? Why won't you do this? I was like, I don't actually know. And he's like, mate, you do know. I was like, Dan, I'm telling you right now, I don't know. So then I was obviously going to therapy while I was with her and whatever. And then that session, I think it was maybe my 4th or 5th session, I realized it. And I was just like, holy shit. And when I first realized, I was like, that's so stupid. But it actually,
Yeah, that's the normal response from people.
Because I think
that's
I
so
explained
stupid.
it to you. I was just like, kind of explaining it as like, when I was a kid, this is how I felt when this was happening to me, when it came to like my family, and feeling as if this was like, I was feeling unloved and la da 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 da. And then I kind of put myself in that situation with this girl. I'm like, every time I saw her do it, I'm like, no wonder I'm getting annoyed. No wonder this is pissing me off. And then after I realized that, I was like, yeah, I can't be with her, especially if she kept doing what she was doing. And then it's happened again in a couple of situations where I've dated someone else and they did the exact same thing. I'm just like, no, this is too triggering for me. And I've actually said, like, whenever you do that, it's kind of annoying. I don't like the fact that you aren't responsible enough to do the so-and-so because it triggers me. And then they kept doing it. I was like, nah, I can't do it. Which is insane to think, because when I kind of unpacked it, I was like, that is so stupid. Like, why is her doing this, triggering this part of me to the point where I don't even want to be with her? But I'm like, it is what it is.
But would you want to change that about you? Is it enough for you to go, actually, they could have been,
No, because I feel like that aspect of someone is actually very, very important key pillar to something I need in someone. It's a level of responsibility. That was the issue that they weren't fulfilling. I felt they should, because they chose to be in that position.
I had like a similar moment.
Don't want to say too much without saying too much.
I want to say something to you.
No, go.
Yeah. So this is not, but there's a program called Under Responsibility, and that's obviously what you're seeing in her, that she's playing out under responsibility in whatever she's doing.
Okay.
And so for you, the under responsibility could be that you're saying that she's triggering you. They ain't responsible for your triggers.
True.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And this is like another, like a huge program that like is, and it's not, to judge humanity, but it's one of the biggest programs that we are conditioned with, is to blame others for how we feel. And the biggest thing in self-awareness, self-development, is to take self-responsibility. And people are scared to do this a lot of the time, because they will start to judge themselves. There must be something wrong with me if I'm going to take responsibility for this. It's not about judging yourself for it. It's about seeing that this is the way you've been conditioned to think that other people can do stuff to you. The minute we can take responsibility for that, have compassion for ourselves, for the younger you that was triggered in childhood by that, then we get to just have completely different relationships, and we choose not to be with them, but it's not a need not to be with them because we're triggered. Not that you need to or you don't.
How do you combat that then? Because obviously, me within myself, I'm being triggered by that person, by what they're doing.
But you're not being triggered by them.
No.
You are triggering yourself in the face of them because of your past.
But is there a way to then combat that and then potentially then still want to be with them if they keep doing that? Because obviously I'm still being triggered. I'm triggering myself, but because they're just doing what they're doing, and it's triggering me because of my childhood. But how do I then fix that?
Well, you fix yourself, and then you might not give a fuck anymore about what they're doing.
Yeah.
You see, you just see it, and you just see it now. You're observing it rather than judging it now.
That's it. I was going to say, does that not come down to the value that you give to it? And so the more you look into it, the less value it has, and the less power it has.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've healed yourself. So then this is where it's really important, because then you actually genuinely get to make a choice about this relationship. It's no longer, I need you to get the fuck away from me because you're triggering me. It's, I'm choosing to not be with you, and now I'm not like, upset by anything you've done. It's just a choice, and it's just like, either it's a yes or it's a no. But this is also an important thing to say as well in relationships, because I know that's quite a big one, is express how you're feeling, but don't blame. Because the minute you're blaming, that's when you get people's backs up. So this is it. Even if they're doing something that's really fucked up, right? It's just to say, when you do that, and this is without blame, I'm letting you know this is how I feel, not how you make me feel. Remove all of that language. And that just opens up a whole new conversation. And then you get to have...
It's not about what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah. Don't blame. Take full responsibility.
Whenever you go to approach a situation with a partner, don't go with you're doing this.
Yeah, like
you need
I
to
feel.
approach it with how you feel, how I feel, because then they'll be a little bit more emotive towards it, and then they won't feel like it's actually attacking their character.
They'll listen to you as well, and you'll give them then the opportunity to as well open up about them without blame potentially.
Yeah,
I was going to say, because I had a moment and it was within a couple of years ago when I first moved to Bondi, and I'd had like 2 really long-term relationships, and I was single for a while, and I like wanted to just work on myself and understand why I was in the relationships I was in and why did they end. And it took like I don't think I spoke about it on the podcast before, but it took a really long time. And I was speaking to like a friend of mine, and I had this like realization, like when I had a realization that the relationships I was in isn't because they started with like a lot of chemistry, and it was like fireworks and you love them and all this. And looking back now, I can kind of see like all the red flags, but I realized the reason why I loved them so much is because they loved me. And it was like they thought I was this incredible human, and one of them thought I was like I was expecting that. But they basically, you know, looked up to me in some like way or form. One gave me confidence, one made me feel smarter than what I was, and it's because of that I was like, I want to be with them. And it was almost the reason why it ended is because I outgrew their belief, because I had a stack of my own proof that told me who I said I was. So I didn't need them anymore to validate me, and so it ended. And so there was this moment I was with my friend, and I was like, fuck, that's the reason why I've been getting into these relationships. So it gave me so much more like scope. So when I did go on dates with people, I was like, I don't need you to like me. Like, that's not enough for me to want to date you.
Facts.
Even if you want to date me, that doesn't mean I have to want to be with you. And that suddenly made it much like the bar was raised. I was like, there's now a lot more that you need to do to even qualify for date 2.
So in those relationships, why? So you ended it because you got what you got from it, but was there anything wrong with them?
I think it was how much
time you got?
Well, I think it's
gonna be the longest episode ever.
I think the first one was like a natural rift in terms of I felt that I had outgrew them as a person. We date from like 17 to 21. I think I outgrew them as a person in terms of my beliefs, like I wouldn't say like intellect, but in terms of like what I was interested in, what I wanted to do. And I think the second one, like emotionally, we just drifted, like we just weren't the same person. I think, but this is a really good point as well, because, and this is, again, people can get quite upset with this one, but this is like what happens in life, right? And so we're in this time where I think it's a bit of a time of confusion, because it's like, we've got to get married and we've got to find these partners that we're going to be with for the rest of our lives. But the reality is, not saying that doesn't, that isn't possible for some people, but it's just as you say, it's like, to have that time with someone and for it to come to an end for, those reasons or whatever is okay. Yeah, 100%.
But we're struggling ourselves today because it's like, I've got to get married. And if I marry, and marriage is actually, it's quite a fucked construct, because it's like, what I'm saying to you here and now is what I mean here and now. Doesn't mean that we're not going to change our minds tomorrow or the next, in 20 years.
I said this the other day. I said this to my missus. I was like, I never want you to feel like you have to be with me beyond what I've said I'm going to commit to this relationship, and vice versa. I want you to get to choose to turn up this relationship every single day and be your best self. If I let go of myself in every single way, you didn't sign up to that. So by no means should you be obligated to stay with me. And I think that's great. That's awesome. People just get together and they're like, I'll be with you forever. It's like, no. Like, be with me for as long as we serve each other. Beyond that, you owe me nothing.
Yeah, beautiful. And how was she?
She was like completely fair.
Yeah.
Because it also takes away this, like,
the pressure.
I'll get fat and I'll give up on my career. It's like, whoa, don't just think you can do that and then like I'm gonna stay with you. Like, no, that's not how it works. And so she was really receptive and like, I agree. And I think it's a really good point.
That's the thing. Love is a choice.
Yeah.
And it's easy to choose love in the good times. It's easy to choose love at the start of your relationship. It's easy to choose love on your wedding day. It's easy to choose love when you've just had a newborn. It's easy to choose love when you're on your holidays or when you've just bought your first house and it's all rosy and beautiful. But love is a choice whenever you're in the turmoil of it, whenever your partner becomes sick, whenever a child, God forbid, dies, whenever someone loses a job. And that's when you really get to see when the cream rises to the top, when you get to see people's true meaning of love and where they actually want to be with you. Because like you said, like just because you sign on the dotted line that you love this person, you want to get married to them on that day, that doesn't mean that they then owe you this for the rest of your life. Whether it says in the title, I love you till death do us part. No, you're going to love them until it literally no longer serves neither of you.
If it was honest, it would be like, I will love you for as long as I want to, for however long I can.
Literally. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And
So
I
basically just make it good for them to stay around.
And I think that's, I guess, a lot of the issues with people's relationships, that they feel as if it goes to the sunk cost fallacy. They've put in that much time where they feel they have to stay. Oh my God, I went up the aisle and said that I'd be with him till death do us part, but he's an absolute dickhead, and I don't even like him. I love him, I love her, but I don't like them. So why are you with them? Why are you with them? You could love your brother, or you could love your mom, you could love your dad, but if you don't like them, don't feel the need that you need to hang out with them and spend time with them because they're your parents. If they're a bad parent, don't feel like you owe them anything. If they're a bad partner, don't feel like they owe you anything. If they're a bad friend, don't feel like they owe you anything. And as soon as people start changing this mindset and not staying in situations that no longer serve them, it's going to have a massive impact on how we can navigate relationships, whether it's friendships, 100%. Romantic, professional, and just life in general.
I think it's all like the should, have to, and needs to. I think that over the years, I think I've become a lot better at just like being ruthless. And like if someone doesn't serve me,
you're so ruthless.
I'm just like, I just cut them. Like, obviously there's it's not black and white.
There's a tapering off period.
Obviously,
you taper it off.
Obviously.
You
but
don't just
in
chop
general,
them.
if you can see clearly someone is not like going to benefit your life and you're not going to benefit theirs,
and they're not willing to change in order to become like a better person. It
comes down to that thing, if you want an easy life, if you want a hard life, just make easy decisions, and if you want an easy life, get good at making hard decisions.
It's an interesting one. And it's, I'm at a time now where I'm just watching people in relationships not being happy in the relationship they're in, people that are single, and I know this isn't probably going to be what people want to hear, but the only problem that we have in relationship is the relationship with ourselves. Because I've got so many people that look at other friends who are in relationships and have got kids and stuff and are so jealous of them, whereas they're having a shit time because they've got these kids that are doing their heads in, and it's like we're not happy, and we think that that's the answer to our happiness a lot of the time. And it's like, if you can't be okay with yourself now, you're just taking that shit into that relationship.
It's like you're chasing like a goal, or chasing some other life that's not yours because you feel that that's what's going to make you happy. But the key is obviously to be happy within the moment that you're in, and also to even love the version of yourself that you are, because like we said before, you can't expect someone to love you if you don't actually love yourself. You can't expect someone to enjoy spending time with you if you don't even enjoy spending time with yourself. Because if you don't want to sit down and just be in your own thoughts and your own company, why the fuck do you want me to come and sit with you for the next 4 or 5 hours at a dinner date, or lie in bed and chat to you whenever you can't? Like, what? If you don't 100%. Enjoy being on your own and you don't love yourself, then I'm not going to be able to love you, because then you're probably expecting me to fill the void that, like Daniel Sloth thing, you're expecting me to fill that puzzle, that spot that's empty. It was like, no, I want to add. You want to add me to your piece that's somewhat whole.
100%. You love being on. If it was up to Dwayne, he could put a kitchen in here and he'd be set.
Honestly,
you wouldn't have to ever go into the house. Be like, I'm set. He'd have a little door he can walk through. Be like,
I'm so content with being on my own. It's actually
the same.
It's actually scary.
I think it's good because then it's like someone has to really wow you to be allowed to enter your space. I think that's really good.
And even if I let people in, if I feel like they're no longer serving me, whether it's a romantic relationship, I'm happy enough to be like, I've gone through enough to realize I don't feel the need to have to spend any more time with you, because this is just not for me.
Out to orbit you go.
I'll see you in a few months when I'm lonely again.
I'll send you a text at 2 a.m. on Saturday.
Speaking of send the text at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, so we put out a little message into the Instagram orbit because I told them you're coming on, and I asked people what they think the issue is with modern dating. What do you think?
Just what I said there. It's us.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, it's us. And then that's it. And this is the sad thing about it. It's like, as I said, sit in a cafe in Bondi, you just hear the same conversations over and over, and no one, that's a generalisation, but we don't give each other a chance because we're already set up that Tinder's a load of shit, that they're all shit, and it's like, well, you're on them, so enjoy it, you know. But it's like,
oh, don't even literally that. You're on the app, shut your mouth and just use it properly and quit complaining.
And it's the same with social media. It's the same with Instagram. It's the same with, you know, this love-hate relationship we have with it. It's like, there's nothing wrong with the apps. They're very technically, you know, they're very professionally done. They're not broken. There's no glitches in them.
Nah.
The problem is it's us.
Yeah.
It's us.
People are going on to a lot of those purely for the validation.
100%.
I have friends who literally tell me they just go on, like mainly women,
really like hanging from like a night before, and they just want to be
only go
validated.
on just for the validation. They have no intention of meeting up with this man. Right. They'll talk to him for weeks. Yeah. I'm like, you're gonna meet up with him? It's like, nah. It's like, fucking stop talking to him.
Why would they do? Like, what is it? Why wouldn't they meet up with them?
I think a couple of them aren't in the place where they even want to date at all.
I reckon I reckon it's also the percentage of effort that it takes to go on a date with someone. They just can't be asked to do that either. Okay. And so you send these messages, but then on the flip side of that, they'll get annoyed with men because they don't, come to the line of action. And it's like, well, if they're speaking to 10 women who give 1%, then men are going to speak to 100 women and just test them first before they give any investment. And it's like, you can't be annoyed with the fact that you're almost creating that like effect, you know?
Yeah, this is it. So I run an event called The Gift of Presence in Dating. And what we do is we get about 10 women, 10 men together. And it's all about, like, they have, say, 2-minute exercises that they do and they all swap round. Mm-hmm. But this is all about one person talking for 2 minutes and the other one listening. Then they swap round. And the next one is one person talks for 2 minutes and the other one matches their body language, like building rapport. Mm-hmm. The next exercise is one talks and the other one mismatches, so they're sitting there and they're not looking at them. And it's all a test to see how do I feel just talking and someone really, listening and taking me in. And the person that's listening is kind of watching their thoughts and stuff as well, and to try and be really present with what's in front of them. And so we do some other exercises around, like, we actually do eye gazing for like 4 minutes, which freaks everyone out. We kind of bring them in.
You just stare into each other's eyes
for 4 minutes. And people go, I'm not doing that. And it's like the first thing that they do without even knowing each other's names. And I've had people fall in love from that and then hate each other by the end of it because their personalities have then got to know each other. The souls of us are fine. We love each other. But then all this shit comes up, all our programming. And by the end of it,
not my vibe.
Nah.
4 minutes. And wait, are they saying anything? No, you don't.
No, you can't speak. It's actually, it's most people come away from it going, that was the best one because it was the most triggering and the most confronting and the hardest thing to do.
I feel like,
where are they looking? They're looking at all my imperfections of my face.
Exactly. I feel uneasy just thinking about it.
Yeah. It's
especially because when you look in someone's pupil and you really stare, you really just
see into their souls.
I know, it's just mate, that's
So
obviously I put out this, so a lot of the reactions and a lot of the comments a lot of it was very gender blaming. Men are blaming women, women are blaming men, whatever. Yes. And also social media. So I'll play just a voice note here.
Yes.
From my guy Chris over in Bali.
Okay, what I want to type isn't like long enough. The box doesn't allow it, and I also don't know how to type it in a concise way. But social media gives the perception of like a lot of availability in terms of sexual partners or romantic partners. For example, you're in a relationship, you have a fight, and you can immediately hop on your phone and like a few photos, get a like back, and start engaging in sexual conversation with someone. That's the biggest fuck up of dating in the modern day. Boom, that's my hot take.
Hey Chris, what have you been up to? Is that what he does?
He's a little Casanova, this one. He's a good looking guy, to be fair. So,
what's his surname?
I think he's from Namibia.
What do you think?
Do you think that's a massive issue with that whole idea of instant gratification, being able to get that attention?
Yeah, and so what does that suggest?
That
we're not worthy, and we need other people to.
I also don't think it's the apps. It could also just be like, let's say it ended, you're going on a night out that night with your boys to get over it, whether it's an app or not. You can go somewhere like straight away. These problems
still existed before the apps. Tinder. It's like we're making out, and this is the sad thing. It's like we're making out that Instagram is the problem, and And I remember when I was growing up, in my teens, and people used to say, it's so unlucky that you have all these magazines, because this was before Instagram, that you compare yourself to people, whereas now they go, oh my God, you were so lucky in those days that we didn't have Insta. But we're always going to compare because we're human. So as long as we've got the ability to think, to self-talk, we're fucking ourselves. So it's like there's so much focus on, you know, technology, which is actually really awesome, and we get so much, some of us can get so much from it. Like I can sit on my phone for hours. I'd much rather be on my phone reading about self-development stuff, watching Love Island, whatever, and be very calm in my nervous system than being out in loud, you know, places where social connection, talking to people. Someone could be talking shit for you, you know, at you for 2 hours, but that's meant to be a better experience than you may be sitting on your phone and listening to something that's actually really useful. So I think it's like we've got this, it's the under responsibility that it's something, the phone, the social media, that's doing this to us. And if we, you know, we love it. Most people actually secretly love it. It's like, why can't we just admit that we get enjoyment out of it? And this is what I coach a lot of my clients
I hate
on.
when people say they hate social media. It's like, there's nothing wrong with social media. It's just your relationship to it.
Always.
There's nothing wrong with men. There's nothing wrong with women. It's just your relationship to them. That's the issue.
Always.
If you use things in the correct way, they're so beneficial. I would say there's so many more benefits to social media than there are negatives. Like, you only look for the negatives. The negatives are only on your newsfeed because that's what you're following, those girls with 200k followers posting bikini pics in Maldives. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Follow Jay Shetty. And I think your life might be a little bit different.
Or admit to yourself that actually it's serving a purpose in that moment. It's like I had a client around the other day and she was, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I've got to hide my phone, got to do this, whatever. And I'm like, well, what's the problem with the phone? She's like, I'm trying to get some work done and I keep looking at my phone. I'm like, what's the benefit to you in that moment? What are you getting? She goes, nothing. And I'm like, well, you're doing it, so what is it? And she goes, well, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm bored, I'm distracted, and I'm looking. So you're getting a bit of relief, a bit of presence.
Ooh, okay.
That's it. And
that's
it's
really
going.
Good.
That's
really good. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And it's
it
like
goes back to
if
you
we
saying about the positive
intention. And this is it. It's like then the judgment comes in. And once we're judging ourselves, then we're just in a cycle where we need the phone, we need the cigarettes, we need the vape, we need the drugs, we need the distraction from ourselves. So it's not about removing the phone or the drugs or the sex or, you know, the anything. It's about looking at the self-talk, looking at the judgment. How hard are we on ourselves? This is like number one killer is the self-talk, is the judgment. The minute you kind of ease on the judgment, you don't need the drink, the drugs, the phone. You don't need those relief. They're like a presencing, you know, something to bring us out of here into the present moment, whether that is through, you know, something that you shouldn't be doing. But the minute we can see the benefit of it, the positive intention of it, and just be okay with that, compassion for self that needs this distraction to get away from the pain that we're causing ourselves. And there's the work on the self-talk, not on trying to stop, you know, whatever it is that gives you some relief.
That's pretty beautiful.
Wow, I really like that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think it all comes down to, I guess, the discipline as well. Obviously, this person in particular was like, oh, I can't touch my phone. It's like, there's that level of discipline that you also need to create within yourself.
So, do you know what I say to them? All of them, carry on with what you're doing.
Oh.
Yeah. Because you hide your phone, you're not a child. You're going to go and fucking fight and put it on top of the fucking car.
Like, you put it up there, you can get it back down. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's about test yourself and have it there and allow yourself to pick it up and watch your self-talk. Are you judging yourself? If you're judging yourself, work on that. Journal on that. Do what you need to do on that. And then see how that progresses. And at certain points, people get to the point where they're just not doing it anymore, or they're doing it and they're not judging themselves, and it's okay. So it's like, work on this. And if you want to, like I had one client and she, you know, was drinking too much. And permission to feel okay the next day. Did you have a good night? I had a great night. So what's the problem? Well, I woke up the next day and I was judging myself all day because I felt shit and what did I do and blah, blah, blah. And so it was, don't give up going out drinking. I'm not going to tell you to do that. Work on the judgment. And the next week, all week, she worked on the judgment. She didn't judge herself, you know, the next time she did it. And then it came to the next weekend. She didn't even want to go out anymore. She didn't need the drink anymore to shut herself up. And she got on with doing, she didn't have to force herself to not go out or to do the creative thing that she wanted to do that weekend. She just did it because she was no longer in her mind fucking herself, basically. So.
I think that's cool. I think that's, wow, that is really impressive.
Yeah.
I think to be able to like unlock that in someone.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that really does just take like a lot of like work to really like just look at what you're doing and why you're doing it and where this is coming from. And yeah, wow.
Yeah. Life changing.
Yeah.
I think after, I guess, speaking with you on this podcast, almost all these messages just seem so stupid. I was like, do I even want to read them anymore? Because I feel like they're just gonna get just shot down. Just like, actually, you all just fucking need to start working on yourselves. I'm just looking at them like, nah, that one won't. No, that's social media again. No, okay, blaming women, blaming men, right. Is there any of these that I actually? I am right. Okay, there is one here. Again, this kind of gender blaming to start off. This person said, one, a lot of men don't work through their pain and become scared of commitment. I think that's a
nice.
gender neutral one,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah.
No one wants to focus on only one person at a time. And I know you said the men comment was unhelpful, but it's what they're given, to be honest. That's the same person sent in all three of those.
Oh, so start at the top?
So number one, a lot of men don't work through their pain and become scared of commitment.
Sure.
2, no one wants to focus on only one person at a time. And 3, I know you said the men comment was unhelpful, but it's what they're given, to be honest.
Well, I think going back to that first comment is it's a human problem.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very easy to blame. The thing is, the minute we're blaming someone for their shit, there's a shadow aspect within that, which means that we're projecting something, you know. So when two people are in an unhealthy relationship, you know, so call it a toxic relationship, whatever you want to call it, and it looks like one person is doing worse than the other, the fact that those two people are staying in it and one's not physically locked in a room, the fact that they're both staying in it, the toxicity is the workings of the two of them, even though one may seem like the victim and one may seem like, you know, the bully or whatever. It's both of them, and that can sound really harsh, but it's, if we're staying in it, there's a positive intention in that, whatever that is. And I think, you know, men get a lot of shit and they get a lot of blame for stuff when we're all doing it together. If one of those people were healthy, they would leave. They would do something different. But whilst we're in it together, you know, I have so many clients go, my partner, they're just not aware enough, blah, blah, blah. And they're just talking about them. And it's like, well, how aware are you that you're doing exactly the same thing as them? You're with them.
If one of them was healthy, then they would leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, why are you still with them then?
Yeah.
Fuck.
So it takes two to create toxicity. It's not, I'm with someone, you're there together whilst you're in it. You're choosing it. You're in it.
We'll clip that, and hopefully we can send you all the breakups that happen post this. You know, because that's always a win. That's always a win. You know.
I do think there is, and I guess it's getting better to an extent where there has been this connotation where men don't talk about their feelings, or they feel as if their feelings aren't valid, or they feel as if their feelings aren't being heard. Yeah. For example, in the last episode, I talked about the Love Island situation with Shaq and Tara. No, Tanya. Tara, Jesus. Yeah. That's how little they have been etched in my brain. Tanya, where
I agreed, yeah.
Where there was a situation where where Tanya did her shit in Casa Amor, came back, and the level of effort that she had to work in to actually get him back was minuscule. All she did was, I want Shaq back, and just drop the other guy. And in that situation, I think I shared in my story while I was in Bali how the level of lack of mental health, the level that there was in terms of taking care of men's mental health in this year's Love Island was the worst I've ever seen, because the fact that she was able to do that and then have this guy stand there like a dick because she didn't tell him before that she was going to do it. I'm just like, and then everyone just, no one even acknowledged the fact that this happened. And I was like, this is probably why a lot of men don't open up or talk, because these situations happen all the time where men just have to get on with it because that's how they've always been taught. It's like, okay, been broken up with, fucking get on with it. It's been 3 months. I'm like, shut your mouth. You don't even know what he's going through. It's happened actually with like friends recently where we've been having a conversation. I've been like, no, I'm on his side, because just because he ends a relationship doesn't mean that he's got over it any quicker. So you can't judge him for making decisions that he has been making, because he doesn't want to have to deal with an awkward situation. And I feel like even lads are bad for it. Just like, fucking man up, bro. Like, shut up or punch you.
Yeah.
Getting a bit passionate about it.
No, I totally agree.
I think whenever people say that men don't open up or aren't willing to do that, I'm like, it's not because they don't want to. It's because they literally just don't think you give a fuck.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, genuinely, Because there's times where I just wouldn't talk about my feelings to people, or if they ask me, oh, so how's this happening in life, I literally don't even want to talk about it, because I know within 30 seconds they'll just start talking about themselves. I'm just like, I'm not even going to waste. You're probably the only person I would actually talk to about shit, because you actually listen and don't like try to butt in or whatever. But for the most part, with other people, there's no point me doing it, because
Is that with guys or with girls, or?
But both.
Yeah. So
girls are a lot better.
Yeah.
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
because girls always talk with each other.
Yeah.
So when they talk with you as a guy, they're more likely to listen, because they want to hear what from a guy perspective, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the times, as soon as you open your mouth, most people just want to talk about themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what you're getting there, as you say, when you guys are having chats, is because you have the level of depth to be able to converse, right? And it's the same thing. It's like the minute you're speaking to someone who's not listening or whatever, it's just showing their level of emotional intelligence. And you know, if they're not able to listen to you, they probably ain't listening to themselves either. And that's, you know, they don't maybe know what to say to you, or they can't handle it. And I think that again is something that's obviously rife with.
Do you think it's not because some people just genuinely don't have like a level of interest in other people?
I think that's part of it.
Like I do think there is an element.
Think that there'll be a reason for it. Like, sorry, but they might have ADHD or something. You know, they might not be able to sit still and listen.
I got diagnosed ADHD when I was a kid, so I was pretty hectic.
Yeah, so it's like there's going to be a reason for it. I mean, I've got plenty of friends that will sit and talk for hours on end and, you know, not ask a question and have just no awareness, not because they're not interested, but because they've just got no awareness of themselves in that way. And then other people who they've got like, you know, they've got to be doing something, because for them they've got anxiety if they sit there listening. So there's always a reason for it. And yes, they may not be interested, but they may not be interested probably for a deeper reason.
That's fair, yeah. So I think one of my old school friends back home, I think he would always never ask questions about anything else, and now when I look at like what he's going through, I'm like, I can see why it's so hard to detach yourself from your own life. It's because like you literally are the center of your universe, and you can't see anything outside of that. So that's fair. I do think there's because it just comes down to being a bit empathetic, and you know,
which is a skill that is learned. We're not just born with you know, not all women are capable of, you know, being emotional. I've got a lot of guys that I coach that have a very deep level of emotion, much deeper than a lot of women I know as well. So it's less about whether we're a man or a woman, and more about what's been our experience growing up. So there's lots of work to be done in the world, and as you say, as you go through that's how we're living. And it's like there's so much more of this stuff now coming out, and so many more courses and self-development books and all the rest of it, but we've got such a long way to go. And I think COVID was a little bit of a wake-up call for us. Otherwise it's probably going to be a slower process, unless we have something happens again that really, you know, shoves us into, you know, some sort of wake the fuck up, you know. We're torturing ourselves.
I think it'll be a long time. A long time coming. It's definitely an uphill battle, especially whenever there's a massive amount of us who have the same thought process of what they think the issue is. People are blaming men, women, on social media, when it's just like, but there's obviously more to it than that. Which is why I said when I was scrolling through after you gave your first answer, I'm like, there's no point even reading these, because it is all going to come back down to the self and your train of thought. But
I was going to say, he has been craving. He is just literally just staring at you for the past. He's just craving attention.
Look at his
he's
tail.
He's been huffing and puffing, just staring at you. He just wants you.
I've met someone that likes cuddles more than me.
I think that might be it.
Yeah. That was really good. I'd be interested to see what some of like your talks are like, and like, do you do one-on-one stuff?
Yeah, loads of one-on-one. I do mainly one-on-one. I do corporate gigs. I do. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be so interested to see what they're like, and that's.
You're welcome to sit on the couch.
I know. I feel like I could just be on the couch and just go through and just talk for hours, and you're more than welcome. And leave feeling absolutely broken. And just be like, whoa. Well, that's 10 years of self-work out the window. Sweet.
Back to square one.
Yeah.
Back to square
Sweet.
Where can people find you? So if they need to, do you have a website? What's your IG?
Instagram, Anita Tomecki. My name will be on the thing, will it?
We'll tag you.
And if anyone wants to PM me, ask me anything, please go ahead. Love to hear from everyone. And I'm in Bondi, if anyone is. I'm always free for, you know, a meet up for coaching stuff. If you're hot, maybe something else. No, I'm joking.
You're not joking. You're not joking.
She just can't. You just can't be her client.
It just depends how looking you are. It just depends.
And if you're not,
So
it doesn't work out. You can come on my books.
only good-looking people. Please message this woman.
Yeah, you know if you get charged after the first session, you're not going with that. That's usually how you know. Yeah, if you get an invoice, no, it wasn't for you, mate. It wasn't for you.
Someone's in the house. Well, thank you very much, Anita, for that. That was
having me.
unreal. I
It was
hope
awesome.
I hope everyone listening has bloody enjoyed that conversation.
100%.
It's definitely opened my mindset to how I'm going to be viewing, I guess,
100%.
relationship moving forward, whether it's romantic or
Yeah.
friendships or whatever. But
I feel
it was
like
beautiful.
I feel like we'll definitely try and bring you back on at some point.
Oh, you got to do
yes.
it. You got to do
You
it.
like that was some
We
really
did cover some
great.
stuff that I
there
wanted
was
to
some
as well.
stuff we didn't cover, and
Yeah.
I can see from how you've held yourself. Like that was great. That was really
I love
great. So
that.
thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It
As
was a
always,
pleasure. I
everyone,
loved
please
it.
follow us on all our socials. It's Twitter.
Twitter.
That's it.
I love the fact you said this.
every time. I've been stalking you.
Oh, it's just like fuck.
That was funny last week or a couple weeks ago. So we've got
Instagram,
Facebook, TikTok,
YouTube.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that good stuff.
And we have some merch coming as well, so jump
Yes.
on. We'll put the link up once it's going to be actually a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, it's pretty
But,
wild.
There's going to be so many girls buying that top.
Oh,
Men know nothing.
yeah, we were thinking that.
That's
We're
what
like,
we're
I do
thinking.
think
Like,
that.
that's like, we need to
It's
make
a
it big
hoodie.
because it's a hoodie.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
girls
love it.
love that
100%.
saying. And it
Love
has
it.
at the bottom who gave these men a microphone as well.
Love that.
So
Awesome.
that's the plan to bring that out, and then we're planning to do some extra bits of content, which will be coming once Dan gets back from London.
the UK.
London, you're literally going to one spot. You
Yeah,
just tell
London.
the city.
UK. Yeah, it's like when
The
I went to
UK is
Thailand, I
literally-
just said I went to Asia.
It's just like
Culture,
you're
innit?
close to me
Culture.
all the time, the whole time.
Culture.
Close to me in Phuket, just drinking.
Just loads of culture.
But anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for
Thank you,
listening.
guys.
Thank you again, Anita.
Peace and love. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bless.